Hey guys, tonight we're not just talking about history, we're stepping into the dusty, blood-soaked sands of ancient Rome. Forget the movies where gladiators are chiseled heroes fighting for glory and adoration. You are about to become a gladiator, and let me tell you, it sucked to be one. You'll be stripped of your identity, thrown into a brutal world of violence and desperation, and your life will be worth less than the dust you bleed on. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You feel the rough hands on your back, pushing you forward. The air is thick with the smell of sweat, fear, and something else. Something metallic, like stale blood. You are no longer a free man. You are a prisoner of war, a condemned criminal. Or perhaps you sold yourself into this life out of desperate poverty. It doesn't matter now. Your past is gone, stripped away with your clothes. You are simply a body, a potential tool for entertainment. You arrive at the ludus, the gladiatorial school, and the iron gate clangs shut behind you. A final, chilling sound that seals your fate. The lanista, the master of the gladiatorial school, looks at you with cold, calculating eyes. He is a brutal man, a former gladiator himself, who knows exactly what it takes to survive in this world. He sizes you up, assessing your physical strength, your potential as a fighter. He doesn't see a human being, he sees a commodity, a piece of meat that can be trained, used, and eventually discarded. Your life has just been reduced to a balance sheet, a grim calculation of profit and loss. You are given a number, a new identity. Your old name, your family, your memories. They are all irrelevant now. You are simply numbered 73 or 205, a nameless face in a crowd of doomed men. You are dressed in a rough tunic, and your head is shaved. A final act of dehumanization. You are no longer yourself. You are a gladiator, a slave, and your life belongs to your master. A chilling and rarely discussed detail about gladiatorial schools is that they were often built adjacent to, or even on top of, mass graves. The ludus was not just a training ground. It was also a place of death, a place where the bodies of fallen gladiators were unceremoniously dumped. Imagine sleeping just feet away from the remains of those who failed. Their silent presence a constant, grim reminder of your own likely fate. You feel a cold dread creep up your spine, a whisper from the ground beneath your feet. Let's inject a bit of dark humor into this bleak induction. Shall we? You're standing in line, waiting for your number, and the man next to you whispers, "I heard they give us free massages here." You look at him, horrified, and reply, "If by massages you mean being beaten senseless with a wooden stick, then sure." He pales. It's a grim chuckle, a brief moment of gallows humor in a truly terrifying situation. The academic debate about the social status of gladiators is complex. While they were slaves and outcasts, some gained immense fame and wealth, becoming celebrities of their time. However, even the most successful gladiator was still ultimately a slave, their life controlled by their owner, and their ultimate fate determined by the whims of the crowd. You look at the other gladiators around you, some scarred and grim-faced veterans, others fresh-faced and terrified, just like you. You wonder if any of them will ever see freedom. Your training begins immediately. You are taught how to wield a sword, a shield, a trident. You are taught how to kill, how to die. Your body is pushed to its limits, trained to be a weapon, a machine of violence. Every day is a fight, a brutal, exhausting struggle to survive. You bleed, you sweat, you cry, but you learn. You learn how to move, how to strike, how to defend. You learn how to kill, and you learn how to fear. The bonds you form with your fellow gladiators are strange and contradictory. You are rivals, men who will eventually face each other in the arena. But you are also brothers in arms, men who share a common fate. You train together, you eat together, you suffer together. You are a family, a grim, brutal family forged in the fires of violence and despair. You learn to rely on each other, to trust each other, to protect each other. For now, at least, as you lie on your rough cot, the sounds of the barracks settling down around you, you close your eyes. You are exhausted, your muscles aching, your body bruised, but you are alive. You have survived your first day in the ludus. You are a gladiator now, a slave in a brutal world. And you know, deep down, that every day from now on will be a struggle for survival, a desperate fight against overwhelming odds. But you are a fighter, and you will fight. You will fight to live. The relentless sounds of the ludus are your new normal, the clang of steel, the shouts of the lanista, the groans of your fellow gladiators. Your first day was a brutal introduction, but now you settle into the grim routine. Your new home is the barracks of misery, a cramped, unsanitary cell where every breath feels like a struggle, and privacy is a forgotten luxury. You step into the cell, and the smell hits you first, a pungent mix of unwashed bodies, stale sweat, and damp straw. It's a small, windowless room, barely larger than a coffin, shared with half a dozen other men. The walls are rough-hewn stone, perpetually cold and clammy to the touch. There are no beds, just straw mats spread on the dirt floor. Thin barriers between your aching body and the cold earth. You find an empty spot. Drop your meager tunic, and claim your tiny patch of misery. Sleep is a restless, fitful thing. You hear the snores of your cellmates, the constant scratching of vermin in the straw, and the distant, unsettling sounds of the ludus at night, a muffled scream, the clink of chains. You wake often, your body stiff and sore, your mind haunted by the day's training and the looming threat of the arena. There is no true rest here, no sanctuary from the constant grind. Sanitation is a foreign concept. There are no latrines within the cells, just a communal pit outside, a festering hole that attracts flies and spreads disease. You share a single, communal bucket of water for drinking and washing, a lukewarm, murky liquid that tastes of metal and grime. Your clothes are rarely, if ever, washed, simply worn until they fall apart, caked in dirt, sweat, and blood. You are constantly itchy, constantly dirty, and the pervasive stench is a constant assault on your senses. A truly horrifying and rarely discussed detail about gladiatorial barracks is the prevalence of vermin. Rats, mice, lice, and fleas were constant companions. These weren't just nuisances, they were carriers of disease, spreading sickness through the cramped, unsanitary conditions. Imagine waking up to rats scurrying across your chest or the constant, maddening itch of body lice. It's a relentless, unseen torment that preys on your last vestiges of comfort. Let's inject a bit of truly dark barracks humor into this grim existence, shall we? You're lying on your straw mat, trying to ignore the biting fleas, when one of your cellmates sighs dramatically. "You know," he says, "I used to complain about the food in my village. Now I dream of a day when the biggest problem is a stray hair in my gruel, not a rat trying to share my pillow." You manage a weak, humorless chuckle. The academic debate about the daily life in gladiatorial barracks is detailed, with historians piecing together evidence from archaeological finds at places like Pompeii and written accounts. While some accounts focus on the brutal training, others highlight the harsh living conditions. There's ongoing discussion about whether the Lanistae provided any semblance of comfort to protect their valuable assets from disease. For you, in this moment, the answer is clear. Comfort is a myth, a forgotten dream. Your possessions are minimal: the rough tunic on your back, a small wooden comb for the ever-present lice, and perhaps a lucky charm smuggled from your former life. Everything else belongs to the Lanista. You own nothing, not even your own body. You are property, a disposable tool, and your lack of possessions is a constant reminder of your enslaved status. The psychological toll of this existence is immense. You are stripped of your freedom, your dignity, and your hope. The endless training, the constant fear of death, and the dehumanizing conditions slowly chip away at your spirit. You see men break, their eyes becoming vacant, their movements sluggish. You fight against this despair, clinging to any small spark of defiance, any fleeting memory of your former life. You learn to build mental walls, to retreat into your own mind, to survive the barracks' misery. As the deep Roman night settles over the ludus, you lie on your mat, listening to the cacophony of the barracks, the sounds, the smells, the constant itching, they all blend into a symphony of misery. You close your eyes, pulling the thin, rough blanket tighter around you, hoping for a few hours of oblivion. You are a gladiator, trapped in a cage of stone and despair, and your only escape is the fleeting, restless darkness of sleep. The stench of the barracks and the constant itching are now familiar, a backdrop to your grim new reality. But something else now dominates your thoughts, the gnawing, pervasive hunger. Your diet as a gladiator is designed for raw strength and endurance, not for pleasure. A monotonous and often unappetizing routine that tastes more of despair than sustenance. This is the gruel of despair, and it will be your constant companion. You sit with your fellow gladiators in a communal dining hall, a bare, unadorned room filled with long wooden tables and benches. There's no conversation, just the sounds of hungry men eating quickly. Your meal is brought to you in a rough wooden bowl, a thick, grayish porridge, often made from barley. It's bland, unseasoned, and barely palatable. This is your breakfast, your lunch, and often your dinner. It's meant to be filling, to provide the calories you need for brutal training, but it offers no joy, no variety. Sometimes, you might get a few dried beans or lentils mixed into the porridge, a rare and welcome addition of protein. Meat is a luxury, reserved for special occasions or for the Lanista and his cronies. You might occasionally get a piece of dried fish, salty and tough, or a few olives, but mostly, it's just the porridge, day after day, a monotonous cycle of bland sustenance. You chew it slowly, trying to wring every last bit of energy from it, but your stomach always feels like a hollow pit. A disturbing and rarely mentioned detail about the gladiatorial diet is its nickname, the barley eaters, hordiri. This wasn't just a casual term. It reflected a deliberate dietary choice. Barley was cheap, easy to grow, and provided the necessary carbohydrates for energy, but it also meant a diet incredibly high in fiber, which would have had digestive consequences for men performing intense physical activity. Imagine the constant bloating, the discomfort, adding another layer of misery to your daily life. Let's inject a bit of truly dark dining humor into this grim meal. Shall we? You're shoveling down your barley gruel, trying not to think about its taste, when the gladiator across from you sighs dramatically. You know, he mutters. I heard the emperor throws banquets where they have actual bread. Warm, soft bread. I dream about it at night. Then I wake up, and it's more of this. He gestures vaguely at his bowl. You just nod, a shared grimace passing between you. The academic debate about the precise nutritional content and the reasoning behind the gladiatorial diet is a fascinating area of study. While ancient sources mention the barley eaters, modern forensic analysis of gladiator bones, particularly from a mass grave in Ephesus, has shown surprisingly high levels of calcium and strontium, suggesting a diet rich in plant-based foods and perhaps mineral-rich drinks, like ash tonics. This implies a more scientifically considered diet than once thought, designed for muscle mass and bone density, not just cheap calories. So, while it tasted awful, it was perhaps intentionally effective. Water is a precious commodity, often lukewarm and stored in communal troughs. You drink it quickly, trying to ignore the subtle taste of stagnant water and the knowledge that dozens of other men have drunk from the same source. You are constantly battling dehydration, especially after hours of brutal training in the Roman sun. Your throat is always dry, your lips cracked, and your head often pounds with a dull ache from the lack of proper hydration. The hunger is not just physical, it's psychological. It's a constant, nagging reminder of your enslaved status, your lack of control over even the most basic needs. You see the lanista eat, his table laden with roasted meats and fine wines, and you feel a surge of bitter resentment. He feasts, while you starve. He lives in luxury, while you live in misery. It's a daily humiliation, a constant reinforcement of your place at the bottom of the Roman hierarchy. As the sun sets, casting long shadows across the dining hall, you finish your meager meal. You scrape the last remnants of gruel from your bowl, trying to trick your stomach into feeling full. You know that tomorrow, it will be the same. The same bland porridge, the same gnawing hunger, the same brutal training. You are a gladiator, and your body is a machine fueled by despair. And as you lie on your straw mat, your stomach rumbling, you dream of a world where food is a source of pleasure, not just a means of survival. The persistent ache in your stomach from the meager gruel is a constant companion, but now it's overshadowed by the burning in your muscles and the raw terror in your gut. Your days are a relentless cycle of pain and exhaustion on the training ground's brutality. Every morning, before the sun has fully kissed the Roman sky, you are pushed, pulled, and beaten, forging your body into a weapon or breaking it trying. You stand in the arena of the ludus, a smaller version of the grand colosseums you'll one day enter, but no less terrifying. The ground is packed earth, often stained dark from sweat, dust, and the occasional splash of blood from a training injury. Your trainers, grim-faced veterans often scarred from their own time in the arena, bark commands in harsh Latin. They wield long wooden sticks, called rudes, which they use not just to point, but to strike, to correct, to inflict pain. Every mistake is met with a sharp, stinging blow, a brutal lesson in precision and consequence. Your first lessons are with a wooden sword and shield, practicing against a wooden post called a palace. You swing, parry, thrust, again and again, until your arms feel like lead and your shoulders burn with a fire that rivals the Roman sun. The palace is unforgiving, offering no resistance, no mercy. It simply stands there, a silent, wooden adversary that forces you to perfect your form, to build the muscle memory that will one day save your life. But even this wooden opponent can be dangerous. A clumsy swing can twist your wrist. A misstep can send you sprawling, leading to a sprain or a broken bone. A truly horrifying and rarely discussed detail about gladiatorial training is the concept of the death blow practice. Gladiators were sometimes forced to practice delivering fatal blows on straw effigies, but it's believed they might also have practiced on condemned criminals or even captured gladiators who were deemed unfit to fight in the arena. Imagine training by ending a real, struggling life, just to perfect the kill stroke. This grim reality underscores the dehumanizing nature of your existence, where even practice is steeped in mortality. Let's infuse a bit of dark training humor into this brutal routine, shall we? You're exhausted, dripping sweat, and your wooden sword feels like a tree trunk. Your trainer, seeing your flagging efforts, barks. Faster? Or do you want the crowd to think you're napping during the warm-up? You groan internally. Even the thought of failing to impress an imaginary crowd is used as a motivator. The academic debate about the intensity and effectiveness of gladiatorial training is robust. While some sources suggest relentless, almost superhuman levels of physical conditioning, others argue that preserving the assets was paramount, meaning training was rigorous but calculated to avoid severe, debilitating injuries before the main event. What is clear, however, is that diet, physical therapy crude as it was, and repetitive drills were central. For you, the trainee. It feels like an endless cycle of exhaustion. You are constantly sore, constantly tired, and every part of your body screams in protest. You learn different fighting styles, depending on what type of gladiator the lanista intends for you to become. Will you be a thraex, with a small shield and curved sword? A myrmelo, with a large rectangular shield and gladius? Or a retiarius, with a net and trident? Fighting with speed and cunning. Each style has its own brutal demands, its own set of strengths and weaknesses. You watch the veterans, their bodies moving with a fluid, deadly grace, and you dream of one day matching their skill, of surviving long enough to earn a nickname, a reputation, something more than just a number. The competition among your fellow gladiators is fierce, even in training. Every man is fighting for his life, trying to prove his worth, trying to avoid the ignominy of being deemed too weak, too slow, too unskilled. A bad performance in training could mean a harsher punishment, less food, or even a sudden, quiet end in the barracks. You learn to trust no one completely, to always be on guard, even against the men you train alongside. This isn't just about surviving the arena. It's about surviving the ludus itself. As the Roman sun finally dips below the horizon, casting long, weary shadows across the training ground, you collapse onto your straw mat in the barracks. Your muscles twitch, your hands tremble, and your lungs burn with every breath. You are a machine, pushed to its absolute limit, a body that is battered and bruised, but you are also a fighter, a survivor. And as you close your eyes, the clang of spectral hammers echoing in your ears, you know that tomorrow, the brutality begins anew. The pain is a constant, grinding reality. Your body, a canvas of bruises and cuts, is a testament to the brutal training. But sometimes, the pain isn't from a wooden sword or a rudis. It's from something deeper, something broken. Injury is inevitable in the ludus. And when it strikes, the healers offer painful treatments with terrifyingly uncertain outcomes. This is the grim reality of the doctor's grim touch. You fall during a sparring session, a clumsy misstep that sends you sprawling to the packed earth. A sharp, searing pain shoots through your ankle. You try to stand, but your leg buckles beneath you, a sickening twist that makes you gasp. The trainer, a grim-faced veteran, hobbles over. He prods your ankle, a brutal touch that makes you cry out. He nods, a grim look on his face. It's broken. You are carried to the valetudinarium, the ludus's infirmary. It's not a hospital in the way you understand it. It's a small, stark room, dimly lit and smelling faintly of stale blood and strange herbs. The doctor is not a learned physician, but often another gladiator. A veteran who has been injured too many times to fight in the arena, or a slave with some rudimentary knowledge of anatomy. He is a man of practicality, not of science. He examines your ankle, his touch rough but surprisingly firm. He tells you that the bone is broken, and it needs to be set. He takes out a few strips of cloth, some splints made from thin pieces of wood, and a bucket of water. He tells you to bite down on a piece of leather, a simple strap that is meant to keep you from screaming. You feel a wave of pure terror. You've seen this before. It's going to hurt. A lot. He pulls your foot, a sudden jarring tug that makes you scream, a raw, animal sound that echoes in the quiet room. You feel a sickening crunch as the bones realign, a grinding sensation that makes your stomach churn. He quickly wraps your ankle in the splints and bandages, binding it tightly. The pain is intense, a throbbing, searing fire that makes your head swim. He tells you to rest, to keep your weight off it. You are out of training. For now. A truly horrifying and rarely discussed detail about gladiatorial medicine is the use of hot irons for cauterization. If a wound was bleeding profusely, or if an infection was setting in, the doctor would heat an iron rod until it glowed red hot and then press it against the wound. searing the flesh to stop the bleeding or kill the infection. Imagine the smell of burning flesh, the agonizing scream, the terror of such a brutal cure. You shudder at the thought. Let's inject a bit of dark medical humor into this agonizing reality, shall we? You're lying on your cot in the valetudinarium, moaning in pain, when a fellow gladiator with a bandaged head looks over at you. Rough day, he croaks. You nod weakly. He sighs. At least your injury isn't questioning why you thought wearing a net against a sword was a good idea. You give a weak, pained chuckle. It's a small, shared moment of grim camaraderie. The academic debate surrounding the actual medical knowledge in gladiatorial schools is quite extensive. While modern interpretations often highlight the brutality, archaeological evidence from gladiator cemeteries, like those in Ephesus, reveals surprisingly well-healed bone fractures. This suggests that while their methods were crude by modern standards, the gladiators received consistent and often effective care, indicating that Lannistae invested in their assets. For you, the patient, it's a terrifying gamble. You trust the man with the splints and the hot iron, not because you believe in his science, but because you have no other choice. You are now in the slow, agonizing process of recovery. Your ankle throbs constantly, a dull, persistent ache that reminds you of your brokenness. You are given a meager diet, just enough to sustain you, but not enough to truly heal. You spend your days lying on your cot, listening to the sounds of the ludus outside, the clang of swords, the shouts of the trainers, the groans of your fellow gladiators. You are out of the game, a broken piece of equipment, and you wonder if you will ever fight again. As the sun sets, casting long shadows across the infirmary, you close your eyes. You are exhausted. Your body a canvas of pain. You are a gladiator, a machine of violence, but now you are a broken machine, lying in a bed of straw. You are at the mercy of crude medicine and your own body's ability to heal. And as you drift off to a restless sleep, you pray for strength, for healing, for a chance to fight again, and to survive another day in this brutal world. Your ankle, though still aching, is slowly mending. The grim infirmary and the crude treatments are a fading nightmare, replaced by the rising anxiety of your true purpose. You are a gladiator, not just a fighter, but a performer, an object of entertainment for the Roman masses. And your very existence, your life and death, is dictated by the cruel gaze of the audience's cruel gaze. The day before a fight is a strange mix of dread and ritual. You are given a slightly better meal, perhaps a bit of wine, to give you strength and to settle your nerves. You participate in the Cena Libera, a public banquet where you and the other gladiators are paraded before the citizens. They stare at you, some with morbid curiosity, others with a kind of bloodlust in their eyes. They are sizing you up, placing bets on your life, judging your muscles, your scars. You are meat on display, and you feel a profound sense of humiliation. You hear their whispers, their comments about your physique, your potential. Some cheer for you, already choosing their favorite. Others scoff, dismissing you as too weak, too slow. You are already being judged, before you even step into the arena. This is the ultimate test of your composure, to stand there, exposed and vulnerable, knowing that these very people will soon be cheering for your death. A truly horrifying and rarely discussed detail about this public display is the physical examination you might undergo. Spectators, particularly wealthy patrons or those involved in betting, might be allowed to physically inspect the gladiators before the fight. Imagine being prodded, poked, and handled like livestock. Your body treated as nothing more than a collection of muscles and limbs to be assessed for entertainment value. It's a profound violation, a final stripping away of your humanity. Let's insert a bit of dark, pre-fight humor into this humiliating parade, shall we? You're standing at the Cena Libera, trying to look strong and intimidating, when a very drunk Roman citizen points at you and shouts, "Hey!" You smile. You're about to make me rich or break my heart. You force a grimace that's supposed to be a smile. You think, great, so my fate isn't in my hands, or even the gods, but in the fickle whims of a guy who probably can't even remember his own name. The academic debate about the genuine popularity and social standing of gladiators is nuanced. While many scholars acknowledge their enslaved status, there's discussion about the extent to which successful gladiators achieved celebrity status, earning fan followings, rich patrons, and even female admirers. However, even if they were celebrated, they remained slaves, their lives disposable. For you, the gladiator, the adulation is a fleeting, dangerous illusion. It might grant you a temporary reprieve, but it ultimately means little in the face of the inevitable. The night before the fight is a long, restless one. You lie on your cot in the barracks, listening to the muffled sounds of the city, the distant murmur of the crowd gathering in the Colosseum. You think about your life, about the choices that led you here. You think about the people who will be watching you, the thousands of eyes that will be fixed on your every move. You are about to become a spectacle, a pawn in a deadly game, and your life will be decided by the roar of the crowd. You try to prepare yourself mentally. You visualize the fight, the movements, the blows. You imagine yourself victorious, raising your weapon to the sky, hearing the cheers of the crowd. But then the fear creeps in, the cold, nagging dread that makes your hands tremble. You imagine yourself defeated, lying on the sand, waiting for the final blow. You are a slave, and your life is not your own. It belongs to the crowd, to the emperor, to fate. As the first light of dawn filters through the barracks, signaling the day of the fight, you feel a strange sense of calm. The fear is still there, a knot in your stomach, but it is now mixed with a grim determination. You are a gladiator, you are a fighter, and you will fight until your last breath. You will not give them the satisfaction of seeing you break. You will give them a show, a brutal, bloody spectacle that they will never forget. And perhaps, just perhaps, you will survive. The crowd's roar is a physical force, a tidal wave of sound that washes over you, rattling your bones and tightening your gut. The stench of sweat, cheap wine, and anticipation hangs heavy in the air. You stand in the Porta Libitinaria, the gate of death, and ahead of you lies the vast, terrifying expanse of the arena's bloody sand. This is your moment, a terrifying dance with death where glory is fleeting and death is brutally, permanently real. You march into the Colosseum, a living spectacle. The sunlight, blinding after the dimness of the ludus, hits you with a startling intensity. Thousands upon thousands of faces blur into a single, roaring, insatiable monster. They scream your number, your gladiator type, their voices a cacophony of bloodlust. You raise your weapon in salute to the emperor, a man whose casual thumb gesture will decide your fate. Ave, Imperator, morituri te salutant. Hail, Emperor. Those who are about to die salute you. The words are rote, meaningless, a grim joke played by men on the precipice of oblivion. The sand beneath your feet is coarse, gritty. You can almost feel the presence of the countless men who have fallen here before you, their blood soaked into the very ground you stand on. This isn't just dirt, it's a graveyard, a stage for ritualized slaughter. You are a murmillo, armed with a large rectangular shield, a short sword gladius, and a helmet with a fish crest. Your opponent, a Thraex, carries a smaller round shield and a curved dagger, called a Sika. He is swift, agile, and his eyes, like yours, hold a primal fear. The fight begins. The clang of steel on steel is deafening, a sharp metallic shriek that reverberates through the arena. You block a furious attack from his Sika, the blow jarring your arm. You thrust with your gladius, aiming for an opening, a weakness. Your shield is heavy, cumbersome, but it is your only defense, a vital barrier between life and death. You move, you parry, you strike. A brutal, desperate dance that is as old as humanity itself. A truly horrifying and rarely discussed detail about gladiatorial combat is the wound management. There was no concept of fighting to the death in every single bout. Lannistai invested heavily in their gladiators, and often, fights were allowed to end with one combatant wounded, but not dead. Specialized personnel, perhaps former gladiators or medics, would be on hand to immediately attend to injuries, stopping bleeding, patching wounds, and stabilizing the fallen. While this improved survival rates, it also meant you could endure multiple severe, agonizing injuries across your career, not just a single, glorious death. Let's inject a bit of dark, in-arena humor into this desperate struggle, shall we? You've just parried a vicious blow, and your opponent stumbles slightly. You mentally quip, "Amateur, did you forget to moisturize your greaves this morning?" You don't say it aloud. Of course. The only sounds are the grunts of exertion and the roar of the crowd. But the fleeting, grim thought is a way to briefly detach from the terror, a tiny mental rebellion against your grim reality. The academic debate about the frequency of death in the arena is complex and constantly evolving. While popular culture often depicts every fight as fatal, historical evidence, including skeletal remains and gladiatorial epitaphs, suggests that many gladiators fought multiple bouts and might have had a reasonable chance of survival, especially successful ones. However, serious injury was common, and a missio release from combat, often meaning survival was still at the whim of the editor, the person sponsoring the games, or the emperor himself. For you, in the moment, every swing, every block, every breath feels like your last. You take a hit, a glancing blow to your leg that sends a jolt of pain through your body. You stumble, and your opponent presses his advantage, a blur of steel and shield. You fall, your body hitting the sand with a jarring thud. The crowd roars, a deafening sound of anticipation. You look up, your opponent's sika gleaming in the sun, poised for the final blow. You are defeated. The crowd erupts, their shouts echoing through the vast amphitheater. They raise their thumbs, some up, some down, their casual gestures deciding your fate. You look at the emperor, a distant figure in the imperial box. His face impassive, your life, your future, rests on his single, arbitrary decision. This is the ultimate humiliation, the ultimate powerlessness. You are nothing more than a toy, a plaything for the masses, and your very existence is dependent on their bloodlust, or their fleeting mercy. As you lie on the bloody sand, awaiting the final verdict, you feel a strange calm. The pain is a dull throb, the fear a distant whisper. You have fought, you have bled, and you have survived. For now, your fate is no longer in your hands. It is in the hands of the crowd, the emperor, and the capricious gods of Rome. And as you close your eyes, you hear the roaring, thundering sound of thousands of voices, and you wait. You have survived the arena. The emperor's thumb, by some capricious whim, turned upwards. You walk away from the bloody sand, a wounded victor, alive for another day. But the roaring crowd, the clash of steel, and the judgment of the emperor are not your only, nor perhaps your greatest, threats. In the cramped, unsanitary confines of the ludus, a silent, pervasive killer lurks, the unseen threat of disease and infection. You return to the valetudinarium, the infirmary, not with glory, but with fresh wounds. A gash on your thigh from the sika, a deep cut on your arm where a shield edge scraped. The doctor, the grizzled medic who sets bones and cauterizes wounds, examines you. He pours a foul-smelling liquid over your cuts, a crude disinfectant made from wine or vinegar. He then wraps your wounds with rough linen bandages, already stained from countless previous patients. There is no concept of sterility here, no understanding of microscopic killers. The air in the infirmary is thick with the scent of sickness, pus, stale blood, unwashed bodies. You lie on your cot, surrounded by other gladiators, some moaning in delirium, others coughing with a wet, rattling sound. A man on the cot next to you has a festering wound on his leg, a dark, angry red that radiates heat. You see the flies buzzing around it, landing, taking off, carrying their invisible cargo of death. You watch them with a growing sense of dread. A chilling and rarely discussed detail about life in these conditions is the prevalence of tetanus. Any deep, dirty wound, especially from rusty metal or earth contaminated with animal waste, could easily lead to this terrifying bacterial infection. Tetanus would cause agonizing muscle spasms, lockjaw, and ultimately, a slow, suffocating death. There was no cure. You might survive the sword in the arena only to die a few days later, convulsing silently in your barracks cell, completely helpless. Let's inject a bit of truly morbid infirmary humor into this grim reality. Shall we? You're lying there, twitching from phantom pains, and a fellow gladiator with a bandaged stump for an arm leans over and whispers, "Hey, at least we don't have to worry about getting fat in here. The only thing festering is our wounds." You manage a weak, pained groan that might be a laugh. It's a desperate attempt at levity in a place where death is a constant companion. The academic debate about the precise mortality rates from infection versus combat in gladiatorial schools is a complex area of study. While popular narratives focus on death in the arena, archaeological evidence, particularly analysis of gladiators' skeletal remains, suggests that many died from complications of injuries, rather than direct combat. Infections, fever, and post-operative complications were likely significant killers. For you, the injured gladiator, it's not an academic exercise. It's a living, breathing threat that is often more terrifying than any armed opponent. You hear the constant coughs, the weak moans, the shallow, rattling breaths. Your own wounds ache. A dull, persistent throbbing that reminds you of their vulnerability. You try to keep them clean, wiping away the pus with a corner of your dirty tunic. But you know it's a losing battle. The air itself feels infected, every breath a gamble. You pray to the gods for a healthy stomach and a strong constitution, knowing that a simple fever could be the end of you. The mental toll of this constant exposure to sickness is immense. You see men, strong and vital just days before, wasting away, their bodies consumed by unseen enemies. You learn to steel yourself, to detach, to avoid forming too many bonds, because the chances are high that the man on the cot next to you won't be there tomorrow. The ludus is not just a place where bodies are broken, it's a place where spirits are corroded by the relentless proximity to suffering and death. As the deep Roman night settles over the ludus, you lie on your cot, listening to the cacophony of the barracks and the labored breathing from the infirmary. You are exhausted, your body a canvas of pain and a potential host for countless silent killers. You are a gladiator, a machine of violence. But now you are a broken machine, lying in a bed of straw. Your survival in the arena was a miracle, but your survival here, against the unseen enemy, feels like an even greater gamble. And as you close your eyes, you hope that the next morning, you will wake up, still breathing, still fighting against the unseen, persistent threat. You've cheated death in the arena and survived the silent onslaught of sickness in the infirmary. You are a grizzled veteran now, your body a tapestry of old scars and new aches. You've seen men come and go, some to glorious deaths, more to quiet, agonizing ones. But for every gladiator, regardless of their past, there whispers a powerful, almost mythical promise, a taste of freedom or deception. The dream of manumission, of being granted your liberty, is a distant dream, often a cruel mirage in a world of absolute slavery. You've witnessed it, the rare, almost miraculous moment when an editor, or even the emperor himself, grants a gladiator his freedom. The crowd roars its approval, and the lanista hands the victorious gladiator a wooden sword. The rudis. This isn't a weapon. It's a symbol of retirement, of a life no longer bound by the arena's blood. The gladiator, often weeping, raises it high, a testament to his survival and the fleeting, terrifying promise of a new life. You watch, a knot of envy and desperate hope forming in your gut. Could that be you? You hear stories of what freed gladiators do. Some become trainers in new ludi, their expertise invaluable. Others become bodyguards for wealthy patrons, their combat skills still in demand. A few even open taverns, using their fame to attract customers. The idea of a life without the constant threat of death, a life where you choose your own path, is a powerful fantasy. It's the one thing that keeps many gladiators going. A tiny flicker of light in the overwhelming darkness. A chilling and rarely discussed detail about gladiatorial manumission is that it wasn't always genuine freedom. Sometimes, a lanista might grant a gladiator the rudis not because he earned it, but because he was too old or too injured to be profitable anymore. He was a depreciated asset, released not out of mercy, but out of financial calculation. Imagine fighting for years, enduring unimaginable pain, only to be freed when your body is irrevocably broken and you have no means of support. It's a bitter, cruel irony, a form of freedom that feels more like a final discard. Let's infuse a bit of dark, ironic humor into this elusive dream, shall we? You're talking to a gladiator who's just been freed with his rudis, his body a collection of permanent aches. You ask him, "So, what's the first thing you're going to do with your freedom?" He winces as he tries to straighten his back and mutters, "Find a comfortable rock to die on, probably." You give a strained chuckle. It's a brutal joke, a recognition that even freedom often comes with a steep price. The academic debate about the true meaning and economic reality of manumission for gladiators is ongoing. While ancient inscriptions celebrate freedom, modern historians question how truly independent these individuals became, often still owing debts to their lanista or struggling to find work outside the only profession they knew. Was it a genuine path to a new life, or a transfer from one form of servitude to another? For you, the gladiator, it's a gamble, a chance, however slim, to escape the bloody sand, but often into an uncertain and difficult future. The Lannistae understand the power of this dream. They dangle the possibility of freedom like a carrot on a stick, a powerful motivator for men who have nothing else to live for. They promise it to new recruits, to seasoned veterans, to men on the brink of despair. It's a psychological tool, a way to extract every last ounce of effort from their human property. You see the hope in the eyes of the new recruits, that wide-eyed, naive belief that they can somehow beat the odds. And you, a veteran, feel a pang of cynicism. You've seen too many dreams die on the arena floor. You continue to fight, to train, to survive. You obey your master. You endure the pain. You face death with a grim determination. You do it not just for survival, but for that faint whisper of possibility. The Rudis. The dream of a life where you are your own master, where your body is your own, where you can walk away from the stench of blood and the roar of the crowd. It's a powerful motivator, a reason to endure one more swing of the sword, one more searing blow, as the Roman day draws to a close and the sounds of the ludus begin to soften. You lie on your cot, your body aching, your mind filled with images of freedom. A small farm, a quiet life, a place where you are not a spectacle, not a slave, not a commodity. It's a powerful dream, almost as powerful as the fear of death. And you know, deep down, that you will continue to fight, to bleed, to suffer, for that one fleeting, terrifying taste of freedom. You stand, battered and bruised, but alive. The dream of freedom, however distant, still flickers. But as you recover from your latest bout, the ultimate power over your life and your death remains unchecked. Your future, your very breath, is held in the hand of a single, powerful individual, the Emperor's final verdict. His casual gesture seals your fate. a thumb turned up or down, deciding whether you live to fight another day or die on the bloody sand. You are summoned to the spoliarium, the grim chamber beneath the arena where the dead are stripped of their armor and the living are tended to. But you're not here for a wound. You're here for judgment. The emperor, or perhaps the editor who sponsored the games, is present, his face impassive, his eyes cold and assessing. He looks at you, a mere gladiator, and you feel the immense weight of his power, a power that can end your life with a flick of his wrist. You stand before him, exhausted, bloodstained, and vulnerable. You have fought well, perhaps even spectacularly. The crowd roared for you, their voices a thunderous approval. You held your opponent at bay, perhaps even defeated him. Now, it is time for the decision. The emperor raises his hand, and the Colosseum holds its breath. Your heart pounds in your chest, a frantic drum against your ribs. Every fiber of your being is focused on that hand, on that thumb. This moment, often romanticized in fiction, is a chilling reality. The famous thumbs up or thumbs down gesture, though historically debated to be more complex. Possibly a thumb to the throat for death and a closed fist for mercy, was the ultimate expression of life and death power. Imagine your entire existence distilled to a single, casual gesture from a man who sees hundreds of such moments in a single day. Your skill, your bravery, your desperate struggle for life, it all means nothing compared to the whim of a bored emperor. Let's inject a bit of dark, imperial humor into this terrifying moment. Shall we? You're standing there, sweating, bleeding, awaiting the verdict. The emperor looks at you, then subtly gestures to a servant. The servant rushes over with a small snack. The emperor takes a bite, chews thoughtfully, and then, completely unconcerned with your fate, slowly turns his thumb. You think, great. So my life depends on whether he liked his pre-lunch olives. It's a brutal, absurd truth. The academic debate about the precise gesture for death or mercy, and the audience's influence on it, is a source of ongoing historical discussion. While popular culture often depicts a clear thumbs down for death, scholars debate whether police verso thumb turned meant death, or if a specific upward or downward motion was used, perhaps even a closed fist for mercy. What is clear, however, is that the emperor or editor held ultimate power, and the crowd's will, while influential, was not always decisive. For you, the gladiator, the ambiguity only adds to the terror. The silence is deafening as the emperor's hand moves. It is a slow, agonizing movement. You can almost feel the air shift as his decision is made. Then it happens. His thumb moves. Is it up? Is it down? The crowd roars. A deafening sound that makes your ears ring. You can't hear anything else. Just the overwhelming roar. You look at the emperor's face, trying to discern his expression, trying to understand what he has decided. Has he granted you missio, another chance at life, or has he condemned you to death? You are led away, either to the infirmary for your wounds to be tended, or to the spoliarium for the final, merciful blow. You don't know which it is. Not yet. But you know that you are alive. For now, you have survived another day in the arena, another encounter with the casual, terrifying power of the Roman emperor. Your life is not your own. It is a game, a spectacle, a pawn in a larger political drama, and you are at the mercy of a single, indifferent gesture. As the sun sets over the great Colosseum, casting long shadows across the arena, you are exhausted. Your body a ruin, your mind a blank slate. You are a gladiator, a slave, a fighter, and you are alive. For now,